So my old man used to say Saturday was about cheering or cheers or jeers. Sunday was about rest. Monday is reflection. Monday is reflection. I couldn't cheer or jeer on Saturday night. I don't know what happened. I lasted till 9:30, fell asleep, woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch Anthony Joshua getting panel beaten, knocked out by Daniel Dubois. And a message from Money Man saying, Rassie will know who they are now. A message from Ollie saying, how cuck was that game? And another message saying, what do you think of Manie? And I just knew we hadn't won that game. I just knew we hadn't won that game. And I thought, you know what? I'm going straight back to bed. Woke up a lot later, saw the score, and during the course of the day, kind of saw the highlights package, and then eventually got to watch the game last night. Gave up 80 minutes of my time.
That you'll never get back.
You never get back. But also, it is 2 days after the fact. It's reflection time. And Manie Libbok kicks that. We win 31-29. It's again, how much depth do we have? This is incredible. We go over there. We can even win with that team making 10 changes. A necessary evil, Zels, in the development of this team. You win a game by a point. Everything's hunky-dory. You lose it by a point, it hurts a bit more. And I think they will take a hell of a lot more out of this 1 point defeat than they would have out of a late Manie Libbok penalty win.
Yeah, I mean, you never want to lose. I think there are learnings in a loss. I think the person that's going to learn, well, hopefully, because history suggests he hasn't, but the person who will hopefully learn the most from this match is Rassie Erasmus. Again, I'm going to come out for the players and say I don't think that was a loss down to the players. I think the criticism of Manie Libbok completely misses the point. If he had kicked those points, yes, we would have won. You know, if I was 3 foot taller, I'd be an NBA star. The point is, he didn't. He doesn't. We knew he doesn't, and we picked him anyway. So if you pick Frans Malherbe to be your goal kicker and he misses a game-winning shot at goal, I'm not sure you blame Frans Malherbe for that. I think you probably look at the coach and go, why did you put that guy in that position? Rassie, we thought, learned that lesson from the World Cup where we warned beforehand, this is a guy who is an erratic kicker. Manie can convert a kick from the back of a Hilux in the parking lot and then miss from directly in front of the poles. That's his psychological makeup. What the reason is, I can't tell you, but he is that kind of guy. He's going to kick a screamer and then he's going to miss a howler. So that is the nature of the guy. We picked him. We put him in that position. Now we can't pretend like Manie's to blame for that. Rassie put him in that position. He missed the kick. The Boks lose. The potential for a perfect run to the Rugby Championship is out the window. But within that, there are lots of learnings. Obviously, the performance of the players, I think, will have given Rassie lots of insight into who can and who can't step up.
Short-term pain for a long-term gain. So Rassie has taken on the chin and said, I take responsibility. You don't blame Manie. I remember Steve Hansen always saying, if it comes down to winning a test with the last kick of the game, you've got to ask yourself, did you deserve to win the test? So I think in the nature of Manie's miss, it's like, how did he miss? It was basically straight in front. So had it probably been from the corner, he would have nailed it because it's a very different kind of pressure.
Totally.
But Manie Libbok is a wonderful, wonderful fly-off. He's a wonderful footballer.
Correct.
But we can't get around anymore defending the fact that he's a 60% goal kicker at test level. The stats are there. The stats show it. Andre Pollard is an 80% goal kicker. And the difference between us winning the World Cup in 2023 was because Andre Pollard kicked 13 from 13. And Manie Libbok was kicking in the mid-40s at the World Cup. Quarterfinal against France. Rassie starts Manie. He sees where this game's going. It's going to come down to a kick. He yanks him on 28 minutes. Pollard comes on. As I say, the rest is history. He keeps on doing it, Pollard. He keeps on winning us big games at the World Cup. Hindsight is a wonderful science. But either you start with Manie in Argentina in the last 25 minutes, you bring the old head of Pollard on to close out a game. Or as many have suggested, you actually put Pollard in at 12 in that last 30 minutes and you allow Manie the freedom to play his natural game, to bring the winners into play. And he doesn't have that responsibility of kicking 2 points as a conversion or a 3-pointer. You give that down to a guy who has 80% kick-in record, who's done it in the biggest moments on the biggest stage, and he's one of the great clutch goal kickers in the history of the game, Andre Pollard.
Maybe I'm the dinosaur, but I mean, way back when, like before they invented cell phones, players would play for 80 minutes. So like a guy like Andre Pollard would start and finish the game. Now, I know it's a wild thing to suggest that, but maybe Andre just plays the whole game and kicks the points.
Yeah, but I agree with you totally. I mean, I'd want to see Pollard on there if he's starting to play for 80. If he's playing well, why take him off? But in the context of trying to accommodate both of them and giving them both game time, the one needs to close the game out if it's going to be tight, and that's Pollard. And you can accommodate both of them on the field if you are playing Pollard at 12 in those circumstances. So the learnings are there. It's does Manie become a luxury now in the box setup? Because he's certainly number 3 in the pecking order, but does he go down to 4 or 5 in the pecking order given the demands of Test rugby? And let's just be very clear about this. Manie Libbok is a very good footballer.
Great footballer.
Could be a great champion at URC as well. Play well in test rugby if he doesn't have that goal kicking responsibility.
Exactly.
Now, he's 3 from 7, that's mid-40s for this season for the Boks. And he's on 60% in the last since 2022 for the Boks. But it's not even the statistics.
Exactly.
It's the ones he's missed.
Well, this is the thing with him, is that 60% that he converted, I'm pretty sure if you go look at it, and the same for the Stormers, he converts the kicks that you take out of desperation, because, or you've just scored a try. He's kicking a conversion from the touchline. He converts those. Where it's a problem is you opt not to take an attacking line out because you're going to bang 3 points from a can't miss penalty, and those are the ones that he misses.
And unfortunately, 79 minutes, effectively he goals it. They kick off, we catch it, we kick it out, we win a test match, and we win the Rugby Championship. He was never going to get it. He missed by some margin.
Yanked it, shanked it.
And that does come down to a BMT kind of the yips.
No, I don't even. Yeah, maybe. Look, I've got my own theories about why he misses kicks. The thing for me,
so what is that theory?
I think Manie has got an issue with how he's targeting the goals, and so I think it's something that can be fixed. If his mind is in the right place, his targeting process, I think, is flawed, and that's why he keeps getting mixed results. But in terms of his future with the Boks, unless they're looking long-term at playing 100 inside centre, Manie doesn't have a future with the Boks because there is no goal kicker outside of Andre Pollard kicking from 12, or who else? We don't have a Sanelli Nahamba there who's going to kick. They don't use Willemse as a goal kicker. So if it's not going to be the fly-off is kicking and Manie's going to be the fly-off, then Andre has to play 12 or Manie can't play. And that was the whole thing that came out of the World Cup, which got my ears pricked up and which was very surprising, is Rassie and Jacques' vibe was like, yeah, but who cares about kicking points? Manie's going to just score lots of tries. We're going to score lots of tries with Manie. And that wasn't the case on Saturday, and it's not the case in real rugby, and Rassie knows that. So that's a weird perspective to have at the World Cup. They seem to solve it with Andre, and now we've gone back to that. So when it comes to learning lessons, it's a bit of a surprising development.
Well, we go back to when Jacques in Chasing the Sun 2 said people condemned, and I was one of them, condemned them for picking 4 scrum-offs and not picking Pollard. And he was like, there was method in our madness. There wasn't, because only one of them played in that final. The other 3 that weren't even involved in the final. And the guy who was in Leicester was asked to come in and kick 13 from 13 to win them 3 playoff games by a point. So if anything, it exposed the folly of those selections.
Big time.
That you do need a goal kicker. And when Pollard was kicking, and the Boks were kicking at under 50%, I think it was high 40s at the World Cup, Rassie, at press conferences, Jacques took the piss out of it. It's like, we just score more tries, we don't have to worry. Test rugby and those big games come down to a kick. It always has. It's been the exception in World Cups and in big Rugby Championship, Six Nations matches, where a match is not won by a drop goal, by a conversion, or by a penalty. Mm-hmm. And it's repeated time and again. You know, I asked Nick Mallett over WhatsApp, always a great one to go to in terms of what did you think of the game. Asked Hanneke Meyer, asked Jake White. And Nick's thing was just, he also said he was very surprised that Pollard was taken off as a starting point. He thought for insurance policy he would have played at 12. Again, not knocking Manie. He says it's kind of, the gut instinct is that he misses the big ones, and the stats actually prove that. So it's, if you're going to play him, as you said, play him in a role that's specific to it, that suits him, that you get the best out of him. As they did in that Twickenham test, he never kicked for poles. He kicked it to the corner. He got his momentum going. From there, he banged over 3 from the corner because there was no expectation for him to get those conversions. We scored 5 tries. We were 35-0 up after the hour. I also asked him what he felt of the game. Very interesting insights. He said he felt in the beginning there was a lot of Tony Brown's influences. He said then disturbing errors in defence, which didn't often happen under Jacques Nienaber and Felix Jones. But we should ask whether these are system errors, and I'm going to get you to come in on this, or whether the looser style of play opens up more opportunities for opponents to turn over the ball to counter off any inaccurate kicks, and there were plenty inaccurate kicks. He said 4 opposition tries in 20-odd minutes. He's very un-Rassie and Boks-like. In the second half, we couldn't take advantage of our scrum dominance. The ref may have been a bit strict here, but that's no excuse. Our lineouts weren't as slick as usual either. And it's easier to be wise after the event. He talks about the Pollard thing. And he says, Manie has shown at the Stormers quarterfinals he's not a dependable kicker. This was confirmed at the Rugby World Cup 2023. I think he's no better than 60%. And under pressure, he's not as good as Andre or Sasha. We were outscored by 4 tries to 3. The Pumas scored 2 wide backline tries, 2 forward tries. So there's plenty of work to be done there. Then on Hanneke Meyer, he's been to Argentina. He's won there. And as a Boks coach, he's lost there as well. His first thing was we had an amazing start. Mentally, some things may have gone wrong because of that. He says, but we need a kicker at this level. Pollard, 13 out of 13. We can look at all the bells and whistles, says Hanneke. But with our dominant scrum, you win big games with an 80+% goal kicker. He says, Mackenzie lost it for New Zealand against us in Cape Town. He missed 3 kickable ones. Big games are always close. I do believe we'll win in Nelspruit. Their set piece is not good enough, and we just need to pressure and suffocate them and open up the game in the last 20 minutes. And he did feel that in Santiago, that we brought them back into the game in the way we played. But he did compliment Contamponi. He said they were clever in changing direction to nullify our press defense. Usually you press both sides of the ruck. I also think with the heat, we had some very, very lazy defenders on the reverse, and they exploited it brilliantly. So there seems to be consensus in terms of where it went wrong, that whole thing of, and we've spoken about it often, Tony Ball has to come at the expense of Jacques Nienaber's defensive pattern. It can't be the same. The mixing and matching of 10 players every match, there's got to be a lack of continuity. And for the most, we've got away with it in games. We've been good enough to win. The luck's been with us. The bounce of the ball's been with us. And we've kind of kicked the kicks that matter. This one, it didn't go against us. And for me, there's a hell of a lot more to be learned because of it. Because it's a lot easier to excuse something, to put the elastoplast over it, when you say, hey, we still banked the win from a team who just beat Australia 67-27, a team that went to New Zealand and scored 38 points. We've got 8 great players back in South Africa. Come on, man. Why are you getting upset about 31-29? But 29-28 is a win in the books for them. And this side loses their chance of their own little bit of history of going 6 from 6 in the Rugby Championship in this season. So given also that Argentina is my second favorite team, Buenos Aires outside of Cape Town, my favorite city. And I just love the way those Oaks play. I love the passion that they show. And they remind me so much of a Springbok team, of a South African team, and of South African rugby players, in that they just don't go away.
And they're all Argentinian.
They're all Argentinian. And it also makes a folly of this, that you've got to be playing in your own country. Those guys are playing everywhere in the world. They get pulled together, galvanized, and for them to have beaten New Zealand, in New Zealand, 38 points, 67-27 against Australia, and beaten the Springboks, the mighty Springboks, 29-28. That's history. Only England have done it, and in 2002 and 2003, and the Irish have done it twice as well. So if you do watch the show and you are somewhere in Argentina, especially my favorite, Buenos Aires, drop us a comment. Yeah. Just tell us how it felt to be there. If you were in Santiago, how it felt to experience only the second ever Argentinian win, or third Argentinian win in Argentina against the mighty Springboks. And well done. I mean, for me, it's not so much a case of the Boks lost this test match. The Argentinians, in scoring 4 unanswered tries in 20 minutes, very much put themselves in a position to win it.
Totally. And you can do those comments in Spanish. Ricky will translate it for these guys.
How did Ricky feel when he watched the replay?
Ricky was disappointed. He has... I've become a Springbok fan over this time. I thought, these Springboks, the world champions, they would be too much for the Pumas in Santiago. I called it out last week. And the Springboks let me down. I'm disappointed. I have to face my countrymen after this result and explain to them why I've changed teams like a traitor. So this week we need to put things right in Etzebeth and show those guys who are the world's best team.
All right, so who is the world's best team?
Oh, the Springboks, by far, when they play like the Springboks. What I was saying about the goal kicking thing is there's a guy called Percy Montgomery who kicked lots of points for the Springboks from fullback. And that allowed us to play Butch James, a wrecking ball open side flanker at 10. And he just destroyed people, decapitated them. What a fabulous player. I love Butch James, one of my all-time favorites. So you don't have to have your 10 kicking your goals, is my point. And you need to have a plan around it, though. You can't keep putting a guy in a position to kick goals in big games and then be surprised when he misses.
But also, Faf de Klerk kicking, Cheslin Colby kicking, it's like there's been this belief in this team you actually don't need it. But history shows we went back and we need it. To be world champions, back-to-back World Cup winners, we need Andre Pollard to kick 13 from 13, and he did that. And he did it in the most incredible fashion. And ironically, 3 weeks ago, every social media post was saying, bye-bye Andre Pollard, we don't need you. Sasha's the future. This one's the future. Manie's the future. We go to an Etzebeth, and it's please Andre Pollard start at 10 and kick your goals, because then we do win the Rugby Championship. Otherwise, it could be a very uncomfortable
But that's what it comes
afternoon.
down to. You talk about learning lessons. That's why I said from the beginning, Rassie has to relearn some lessons that he is the master of. He shouldn't be having to learn that. He knows this better than anybody. So, yes, we are now back in that position. This week is going to be very telling because now everything's on the line. Now we're going to see, are you going to retreat from your Tony Ball tactics to the rugby that you know wins, or are you going to stick with what you think is the evolution and the future and? For me, last week we spoke about it. I was excited about the team selections. For me, it's not about the result. The fact that we lost in Argentina is disappointing, but that's not the issue here. The issue here is that we took guys in a relatively experimental team, guys who've been waiting their whole lives for an opportunity to prove that they're good enough to go to the World Cup, and we put them in a position away from home where they're experimenting with tactics and not given the tools to have their best shot at succeeding. And so that's disappointing to me because there's some guys that are going to pay the price for this result, and in a way they've been put in a position to failure. The Boks could easily have won this game by 15 to 20 points. I feel like I say this every friggin' week, if they just played Springbok rugby. That second try where Jesse Kriel runs that short line straight through under the poles, they were direct, they played off 9, forwards went forward, got over the gain line, momentum, bang, try time. They looked exceedingly average. But there was a lot of Tony Ball going on in this game. This came out, big passing game, Ben Jason Dixon offloading in his 22. It was chaos. It was helter-skelter. It was like we were trying to set a record for ball in play in that game. And I think that our guys were gassed because of it. I think the decision-making was put under massive pressure because of it. And what's different to experimenting with a game plan with players that have won back-to-back World Cups and have leadership credentials like Sia, like Dwayne when he was playing, like Eben if he was on the field, is that they know how they got there. They were there in Chapter 1, where it was, we must win at all costs. This team has been terrible. Let's play Bok rugby. It's about momentum. It's about defense. It's about kicking. They've walked that walk. So when they get to the candy store with Rassie on this Tony Ball thing, and everyone's getting a bit of a sweet tooth, they can scale it back because they know how they got there. They can retreat back to that Bok rugby that they have played and won with. But when those guys aren't on the field and Tony Ball has just got the guys spread out all over the field, there isn't anybody there to pull it back together and to get back to doing what makes Bok rugby great, which is smashing people in the face and going forward. So that's the disappointing part for me.
If you look at 2018, Boks go to Mendoza, they're 32-7 down. They eventually lose 32-19. Very significant game in the build-up to 2019 World Cup. Growth in a lot of players and that. So there's always been that respect for what Argentina can do to you. But again, they didn't do that to us physically on Saturday. They killed us with their backs. That's the great irony. Their scrum was being decimated. Their lineup wasn't particularly great. Our lineup was shaky. But it was the Argentinian backs were running angles at us and picking us apart as if we had never had a defensive pattern in our life. Yes, we were player down with Kurtley Orense getting the yellow card. But we saw the Pumas do that to the All Blacks in Wellington when the All Blacks were just hoofing that ball back to kind of relieve pressure, but basically putting the pressure on themselves. And in that 30-minute spell when they completely tore apart the Wallaby defense, there was some incredible skilled back play and interplay from the Pumas. So Philippe Contamponi has certainly evolved this team, but when you get a dominance like the Boks had at scrum time, and you have the Bok line out, when you look at the caliber of player,
Yeah.
you should, and you have a Andre Pollard, you should never be losing a test match there.
No, you should never be losing a test match. And I think as much as I agree that Argentina are definitely on the rise and on the up, and Contapomi's got them headed in the right direction, I think a lot of that success on Saturday is down to the inefficiency of the Boks. Zoom is a great tool, but I'm not sure you can coach an international test team defense from Zoom. The Boks are missing Ninabe. They may get lots of insights from him during the week over the internet, if that's the case. But he's not there on game day to make adjustments. And the details is the difference at the highest level. When they say the margins are short, that's what they mean. The little details were missing.
Well, I mean, there's no way the Boks are defending the same way at the moment. There's not that intensity in the defense. They do seem to seek the touchline more than seek the player outside in. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, when you look at Bok teams that have been at their most dangerous, Bok teams like to tackle. Our players love to tackle. It's like they like to get hit. It gets them in the game. In boxing parlance, they would be the guy who has to get hit first before he knocks someone out. And it does come across as a form of passive defense, which just doesn't suit our nature. That we are kind of allowing space to the attack and saying, okay, we'll basically still get you to the sideline and push you out and we'll get the line out. And we really need to be playing with a blitz defense.
Totally. It's like Mike Tyson jabbing, isn't it? It's not that he can't jab. It's just that that's not his game. That's not what he does. If you want a guy to jab, you don't pick Mike Tyson to be your boxer. So that's what the Boks are doing at the moment. Also way too clever. When KLA got the yellow card, Ben Jason Dixon get pulled out the scrum to play defense at scrum off. Visa goes to the blindside flank. We put Kobus Reinach at fullback. Fussy reels in on the wing. Complete circus. Completely unnecessary. After that yellow card, they have a line out. I think it's around the 35-meter line. Argentina take the ball down and they spread it wide and they kick it. And we've got Kobus Reinach in the 5-meter channel in the hooker position. He's our de facto fullback in that setup. By the time they kicked the ball, Kobus Reinach must have been 30, 35 meters from the ball. There was no fullback. Fussy had come up in the line to play defense in tackle support of Makazole Mapimpi. It was chaos. So those are the details I'm talking about. Oxen Chase shoots up on his own, no wingman, dog leg, playing behind him, line break. There's lots of that stuff in that game. And that's the difference between having a drinking buddy sort of running the show there and a guy who's actually the best in the world at that position. Jacques Nienaber is being massively missed in this setup. And I think we are unnecessarily rolling the dice here in experimenting with tactics and players without the coaching IP that we had with Jacques Nienaber. This is an unnecessary risk to take. We don't need to be doing this stuff. If you want to experiment with players, stick to the plan. If you want to experiment with the plan, then you can sort of stick with the players. But to be doing both at the same time, we're losing to teams we shouldn't lose to.
Doesn't this though come back to, and we've spoken ad nauseum about it, is rather do it now in 2024, that by the time we get to 2026, if we have to revert to type and feel that that's still the most effective way of winning a game, it's like there can't be any kind of, hey, have you tried this? Why aren't we evolving a game like this? It's like there's a tangible. We actually have done it. We lost games we shouldn't have lost. We showed you there's certain players in our system that can't play to our system, and they may be better as rugby players than the guy we've picked, but they don't fit our system.
Totally.
And this is a squad designed to win the Rugby World Cup in 2027, which may be very different if I was trying to win a Rugby Championship or go on the end of your tour and win one-off test matches. So I'm sure there is a science to it. I think the frustrating part for me is I never want to see a Bok team lose and then lose games that you think it's one thing to be clobbered. You accept that. When we went to Auckland a couple of years ago, we rested 10 Oaks, sent them over early, and we took a pounding in that opening 20 minutes. New Zealand were amazing, the tempo that they played at, and we couldn't claw it back, and we lost 35-20. Hats off, well done the All Blacks. You beat us on the day, very much second best. But as poor as we were at times, we weren't second best in that test match. So it's like when you look at a test match and you go, how the hell were we in a position to be behind? And the thing that's kind of irritating for me is if you take the Durban test against Ireland, we started so badly, but we fought back from 16-6 to eventually be leading 22-19 and or 23-9 or whatever, but we fought back and then we conceded 2 late drop goals through putting Ireland in a position to actually kick those drop goals. The same here. We got into a great lead, then conceded those 4 tries, found ourselves behind, but found ourselves capable of getting back to actually being ahead, lost the lead, went ahead again, and then put ourselves in a position to win the game and didn't. And that's frustrating for me. Makes me darn mad.
No, it does make me mad. And if you take the score off the table, so let's pretend like we won by 20 points, right? Look at the performance and tell me where there was growth or where there was definitive answers tactically. Like, so we know we can scrum. We've got some of the best scrummagers in the world. That's a given. That's not really an area where we're trying to improve. Was the line out super slick? No. Was the defense super slick? No. Was the attack super slick? No. Was ruck integrity super slick? No. There's no area in the contestables, mate. We didn't win a single contestable in that game. We didn't win a high kick.
Okay. Thanks for that awareness, those observations and insights.
So what I'm saying is, like, this whole thing where, we know how to play Bok rugby, we're going to experiment with this, we can always fall back on it. We can't win a contestable kick anymore, so that takes pressure tactics off the table. So we are stuck, and I said this to you, we've got 25% better at Tony ball at a 50% reduction, at a cost of a 50% reduction in playing Bok rugby.
But we know we can get back that 50%.
But do we? Because we can't even win a high ball. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not like PlayStation where you just, I'll just put the other guys back and we'll play a different way, everything will be fine. These kids are not schizophrenic. These players, they're human beings, so there's a process to how you get there. You don't just walk in on a Monday and say, guys, we're going to build their most impregnable wall of Newlands. We're going to make 200 tackles a game. People will not score against us. You don't just have that conversation on Monday and on Saturday you've got the wall of Newlands. You have to build it through playing time, through ironing out the details. So when you go away from that stuff gets forgotten.
Okay, but let's put everything into context here. There's going to be 8 or 10 changes again to the side that we're playing now.
Yes.
Okay. And there is a marked difference in class between the players who are coming back and the players who were there.
Totally.
So with the greatest respect to BJ Dixon, who's on the up, he's no Peter Steph Toy at the moment.
Right.
So despite what Rassie may say is there's very little to choose between the two, there's a hell of a lot to choose between the two.
100%.
Okay? So if you look at Eben starting, there's a hell of a big difference between Eben starting and Salman Murat starting.
Totally.
Okay.
Agreed.
And we saw that when Eben came on.
Yeah.
Sia Khaleesi, there's a marked difference what he brings when he starts to a Marco van Staden starting. Then you look at Damon Deolandi, incomparable. Cheslin Colby, incomparable.
Totally.
And even the experience of a Willie Leroux, and we keep on saying him with the back three
Agreed.
of what he brings. So, and then the bench, if you're looking at some of the forward replacements, it's a very different team that will play in Nelspruit. And it's a team that should, if they play well, and they play with rugby intelligence, they should be good enough to win and win well.
Totally.
Now, if you go back to the Santiago game, again, you were excited about the match 23,
yes,
the quality of individuals, but they'd never played together either, okay? Individually, there were highlights. Oxenchair was outstanding. Okay, Eben came on, outstanding. Lifted the tempo, Mongrel. Fussy had his moments. Again, individually. Pollard looked good individually. Manie, outside of his goal kicking, showed some things individually. Again, he went for the purchase to get within 5 meters, missed that kick for touch. But collectively, where do you feel it didn't work? And who would have been the winners out of that game?
So what I'll say is, if we're thinking about the now, if we're living in the now, absolutely pay no attention to last week's result, because the Boks are more than capable of going full metal jacket this weekend and destroying Argentina to win the Rugby Championship, which we've only done, 2007, 1998, 2019. This will be our fifth time, okay. So...
Fifth in 29 years, guys.
Fantastic, okay. So, sorry, not 2007, 2004. So, and 2009. Fantastic result, great achievement. We've won the trophy, outstanding. I'm talking about whenever we talk about the Boks, this is a World Cup winning team. We can't be living week to week, because the reality is that there is a World Cup coming, and that we had a team with an average age of 31 years old, the match day 23 in the final. So we can't have a team with an average age of 35 at this next World Cup, which means we're going to be changing players. There has to be a transition. And it's not as simple as just saying, get rid of 15 players this week, bring in 15 new ones, and we'll build for the next World Cup. There's a transition process. Now, you want those guys to come in and to basically take over from veterans who have won 2 World Cups. So you want them to hit the ground running. You want to build them up as fast as possible. And you want to find guys that are as good, if not better, than the guys they're replacing. That's the point. So in that context, playing around with a new game plan, with players that it's their careers on the line here, and you're losing to Argentina in a game that you could easily have won, that's where the concern comes. It's not about this rugby championship. These Boks, they can walk this rugby. I have a good feeling they'll destroy Argentina this week. The fact that they can do that is not the point. The point is, how are we bringing in these youngsters to replace some of these old dogs, and are we giving them the best opportunity to thrive nice and quickly? Do we have to pay maximum school fees, like losing to Argentina in games that we can win? And that's the concern for me. And I said it before, if you bring these guys in and you're measuring them on a game plan that is expensive, you're going to find players that stand out playing expensive rugby. And then when you revert to playing the rugby that wins World Cups, those guys are going to prove to not necessarily be the best players for that. So it's that journey that we're on now, and that's some of the red flags that I think are being raised.
Okay, but now we speak about there's no country at the moment that has our playing depth.
Correct.
We could field 4 starting 15s that would beat most teams. Are we getting ahead of ourselves, or do we have 25 to 30 players who are capable, but we don't have 40 to 50 players who are capable, and that because of the winning momentum that we had pre-Saturday night's defeat, 20 wins in 23, all the kudos that come with the titles, we start believing that some players are potentially a lot better than they actually are when compared to those top dogs that have won it, and that age factor you bring in. Now, history has shown that experienced teams win World Cups, but old teams lose World Cups.
100%.
And it's a fine line between having 15 players with 80-plus test caps and having 8 players with 80-plus test caps.
100%.
Okay? So if you look at the evolution of this Boks team from 2023 to 2027, just in the current 50 that have been spread about, Oxen Chair is going to be there, and we context fitness permitting, okay? Oxen Chair is going to be there. Malcolm and Bongi, question marks.
Question marks.
Injuries and age.
Yep.
Do we have the next cab off the rank? Is it Grobbies? Is it Jan Hendrik Wessels?
Question mark.
And are they like-for-like replacements?
Correct.
Tight 10. Is France going to go through?
Question mark. I mean, he's great, but is he going to get there?
Locks, Eben. Magnificent, but it's still 3 more years.
Yep.
That will make him, 35? So he's got to be managed. Is there like-for-like for Eben at the moment? No. Sos still has to come back. Peter Steff could potentially go into that second row.
Look.
Right now, a Ron Nokia and a Marat are not on the level of what won us the 2023 World Cup. We don't have a natural 7 that slots in for Peter Steff at the moment. They've looked at BJ Dixon, and I think he's going to learn from every test match he plays. Mm-hmm. Sia, I keep on saying, wow, that guy is so inspirational. He's got to be managed. He'll be 36, I think, the next World Cup. If they're only getting 45 to 50 minutes out of him now, as a 36-year-old, what are you going to get out of him?
Correct.
So we keep on saying the 3-peat is on, but the like-for-like replacement for me isn't quite as close as maybe all the media hype makes it out to be.
100%. And if you go back to 2018 when Rassie took over from the worst Bok period ever, okay? So he had to build a team for the 2019 World Cup. Now, you can go through that list of players that played on Saturday and say, are any of these guys better than the players that Rassie picked in his first squad in 2018 at that point in their career? And I think your answers are probably going to be no. That the guys that Rassie picked in 2018, you would pick them ahead of those guys. Also, when he picked those guys, he didn't muck about with Reds rugby or Cheetahs rugby for years on end. He went straight to playing percentage tactics. He spent a lot of focus on Jacques getting the defense right and becoming a weapon, and then he built from that. So when you look at it being a building process, the foundations of this squad are not the same as that. And the focus is not the same as that. So how are we supposed to find, if a guy like Eben doesn't make it, you're not going to find a 4 that's direct, physical, and defensive when the plan that you're playing is about getting to wide breakdowns to clean and tempo. You're going to find 2 different kinds of players there. So that's the point I'm making. Another thing is that we've just spoken about how good Argentina is. They're on the rise. Contepomi's got them built up. But if I said to you, with that team that played on Saturday, Jacques Ninoba coaching the defense, and they play very structured, direct, high percentage rugby, I think you would agree with me that the Boks, we picked them to win by 10 points regardless. They probably win by 20 points. So we both agree that this Boks team is capable of putting a lot of hurt into a Pumas team that is on the rise and is playing at home, and they lost to them. I think you have to see the swing in the result, that we actually lost to this team with these guys.
But the cheerleaders in the crowd will say, and the Boks management would say, we have beaten Ireland in a home test match. We were a minute away from winning a series 2-0 to them. It was our error and a bit of individual brilliance from Ireland in terms of a drop goal that won them the test match. We beat Australia twice in Australia. We beat the All Blacks twice in South Africa. Come on, what a season.
Spot on. And if you're living in the now, 100%. If you're only going to look at the now results, and you can keep saying back-to-back world champions until 2027, there's always going to be a reason to justify it.
Could we be in a position where we thank Manie Libbok for missing that kick in terms of the growth of this team, because it hasn't allowed us to just gloss over, hey, we had a tough 10-minute period when Kurtley Orenson was off and they scored 4 tries kind of thing. To say, hang on a second, maybe some of our players aren't quite there yet. Maybe this style of play isn't going to win us potentially big games in the World Cup. And you have to look a bit deeper when you lose a test match than when you win a test match.
Totally.
And you learn so much more from a 1-point defeat than you do from a 2-point win. That is just the nature of reality, because it hurts to lose. Rassie has said it. It hurts. It's again, I said it makes it hell of exciting for Nelspruit this weekend, because it is a championship finale, and Argentina deserve to be there. They've beaten the All Blacks, beaten the Wallabies, and they've beaten the Springboks. So they are worthy finalists of a Boks team that's won 4 from 5 and has also done the other opponents in the competition. But it's just one of those things that it's, as much as I hated the fact that they lost, well, I didn't hate's a bad word. I mean, it irritated me, okay?
It's disappointing.
It was very frustrating.
Yeah.
Is in the context of the growth of this team and the evolution of this team, I think it's a bloody good result, because it just humbles everyone again, and it humbles me, it humbles you, it humbles the management, it humbles every South African supporter, because when you're on the receiving end of a 1-point defeat, it shows you how easy it is when you're on
how tight the margins are.
When you're on the other end of a 1-point victory.
Yeah.
So when we won the World Cup, everyone's like, never in doubt. 1 point France, 1 point England, 1 point New Zealand. And how did it come from?
Totally.
Ramos's kick is charged down. England miss vital kick. World Cup final, Mo'unga misses a conversion. Geordie Barrett misses a penalty. Down in Cape Town, McKenzie misses one from straight in front that takes him into the lead. We haven't had that. We've actually kicked our goals thanks to Andre Pollard.
Totally.
And so that's also masked a lot of what hasn't gone right.
Totally. But from a media and Joe public perspective, I think you're 100% on point in terms of this result giving people more context and understanding. But from the Boks management team, I would have thought Andre Pollard kicking for 1-point victories back to back in a World Cup to win it would kind of have laid the point about how important the goal kicker is. Like, if that didn't show Rassie that you have to have a on-point goal kicker, then I'm not sure a 3-point loss against Argentina is really going to drive the point up. Joe Public, 100%. I think there's a lot of people out there, Boks fans, who every time I say something that isn't overtly positive, think I'm being unnecessarily negative. But this is exactly the kind of thing that I'm talking about. These are the results that can happen. So I think for them, it could definitely be a wake-up call. But for Russ, I just don't, and like I say, I never have doubt that Russ has a plan. He is a man with a plan all the time. And he will have a reason for it. And again, it could come out in 2 years' time. Oh, this is what they're doing. I'm just a media pleb. What do I know? But where I'm sitting right now, you can't connect those dots.
Well, the reality is that he can't trust Manie to kick the last-minute penalty to win it. He couldn't even watch on Saturday night. he turned away,
I saw that, mate.
which was quite damning. And I agree with him. You don't blame Manie for the defeat.
Can't.
But he said he's got to live with it because he tends to do it time
Well,
and again.
you put him in that position, and that's my point.
So did he not put him in that position to say, I'd rather drop one in Santiago than drop one in the final in Sydney of the 2027 World Cup because I've now believed that this guy can actually do it.
Yeah, but also you must have a memory. Like, we've seen the guy do it multiple times. This isn't the first time. Manie was 1 from 2. How many shots did he have at goal on the weekend?
2.
Okay, so he was 1 from 2. It's a 50% goal kicker. Andre's had plenty of those games. The reaction that the public's having is because they've seen this multiple times. They knew it was coming.
Well, he's 3 from 7. We saw it at the World Cup when he was in the 40%. His historical Boks kicking percentage is 60, which is not good enough.
Correct.
But again, I go back to Beauden Barrett has scored close to 800 points for the All Blacks. And plenty of them have come off the boot. He hasn't kicked for the All Blacks since 2019.
There you go.
Because
He's erratic as well.
the belief was that he missed kicks he shouldn't have. And one of those, or 2 of those, was against the Boks when we won 36-34 in Wellington.
There you go.
He missed the last 2 kicks of the game there, and he hit the post. So we talk about this famous win in New Zealand, 36-34. It came down to him hitting the post. Otherwise, it'd been 36 all, and they're attacking to score. So no one says that he can't kick. He just wasn't kicking particularly well in big pressure situations.
Yeah.
Now you go to a Montgomery 2007 World Cup, 81%, 4 from 4 in the 2007 World Cup final, 2 of them on one leg, he had torn knee ligaments. Franz Steyn belted 1 from 1, 50 meters. You go to 2011, a specialist kicker, Donald, came on. The only kick he basically got, he nailed. 2015, Dan Carter was magnificent in the semi-final against us and the final. 2019, Pollard semi-final, his goal kicking, that pressure clutch kick against the Wales to get us through. Delaney's moment of brilliance to score the try. And then basically missing 1 kick in the final, Pollard, and getting 22 points. 2023, Pollard again. There's a trend. Joel Stransky, 95, drop kicking, okay? Mertens misses in the last minute. Stransky gets. Rainbow Nation is built. There wouldn't have been that story. 99 was irrelevant because Australia was so strong. And 2003, Johnny Wilkinson, 100th minute, Ron-footed drop goal. So each one of those where it's been a tight game, it's come down to not 6 tries to 2. It's come down to having a goal kicker. And I'm amazed at how easily people wanted to retire Andre Pollard a month ago. He's done his job for us. He's won 2 World Cups. It's now about Sasha. We know the way Sasha plays. He's always going to have an injury possibility. He plays at 150 miles an hour.
Yep.
He's 22 years old. He's had 2 knee operations now in the last 6 months. He spent the best part of half the year out injured with the Stormers. You don't see him at the moment getting 3-4 matches back to back. It is a concern for everyone because he is undoubtedly the future. He can play like Manie and he can kick like Pollard. But he is a luxury that we don't have at the moment. So I think what's come out of here on the weekend, let's fall in love with Andre Pollard again for those who have fallen out of love for a belief that we need to be playing Tony ball. That guy has to be wrapped up in cotton wool, nurtured, nursed, and make sure that we get him to the next World Cup, because whether he comes off the bench in the last 30 or he starts those big matches,
He's going to the World Cup.
he's going to the world. He's done it for us, and we should be grateful and thankful to what he has done.
100%.
And then similar with Sasha, it's going to be a big conditioning process for him over the next 3 years to keep this guy fit. And then who knows, maybe some kid does arrive on the scene that we haven't heard of yet. It's 21 years old and just does something magical in World Cup year. But individually, before we move on to kind of all the rest of the other rugby news.
Yes.
Individually, I asked you, but you didn't really answer, so I'm going to ask you again.
Ask me again.
Who are the winners from Santiago and who are the losers?
I think
player-wise.
Andre Pollard, definitely a winner. Definitely a winner. I think Kobus Reinach really struggled. We said before the game that he needed a big game. He's had a tough season. What they did in terms of how they reshaped the defense in the second half kind of put him in difficult positions. I think he really struggled. He looked like he was exhausted. Early in the second half, they had multi-phase attack in the strike zone. Andre threw it to nobody. Ref blew the whistle. And Kobus was hands on knees. So I don't know if it's maybe a conditioning thing, but he struggled a bit. Murat's come in for a lot of flack for his leadership. I don't buy that at all. This is a team that is experimenting with tactics and 10 changes and is away from home. That's a hell of a tough team to lead with limited experience. I thought Oxenchair was superb. He got the tight head airborne, fabulous. The scrum was good, so you've got to give kudos to everybody involved in that. Line out was not flawless, had a few issues. I don't know whether you can pin that on Ruan or Malcolm, but some of the calls were interesting and some of the execution was sloppy. I thought Lecanio and Jesse did well, relatively, despite the defensive shortcomings of the team. And yeah, I think Apaleli is proving to be what we know he is, which is deadly on attack, real burst, good finishing instincts. What I don't see in South Africa is that tactical fullback coming out. The guy who, when the moment calls for it, is going to stand in the pocket and kick the kicks and control the game. You know, when Willie exits, who is going to be the guy to take over then? And as much as, you know, the Boks seem to rate Gaza in that position, I think it takes it's a personality type that you need at fullback to play that kind of game. So I'm quite keen to see who emerges there. Like I say, fussy electric on attack though. So yeah, that was my main sort of takeouts, I suppose, from that. Have I left anybody out? Who do you think?
I don't know. Who's the biggest loser?
Oof, mate, that's a long list. I mean, they exposed Marco van Staden a couple of times on that inside pass. A bit sloppy in catch-up defence. There was some messy stuff there, mate. I don't know. Jasper Wiese is the wrong guy for that plan. If you're going to be playing a high-tempo, expansive game, you can't have a guy with the athleticism, the sort of repeated sprint numbers of a front row forward at number 8, I don't think. You need somebody more athletic in that position if that's the way you're going to play. If you're going to go direct, he's your man. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on these guys?
I thought Jan Hendrik showed good impact, potential to play one at that level. I think that's what they're looking for. I'd say he would be one of those guys who benefited from the game. It was nice to see Mpipi running hard. Again, can he make it to the next World Cup? I doubt it with age. Yeah. It was good just to see Lekanya get game time. I've always liked Kobus Reinach and all that. I read some reports, people thought he had his best game. I just don't see that zip in him that I saw. And it could be an age factor. It could be like Father Time's catching up with him. I just think our forwards in that heat as well, we're gassed. And when you're playing in 35-degree temperatures in the afternoon in Santiago, it's got to be a little bit more science to how you approach the game.
You think so?
And you would think so. And so I was disappointed with that. Again, I'm willing Samuel Murat to just come through and own it. I don't think he does at the moment.
Yeah.
I've been impressed with Rowan Nokia's engine. He could be a Sose in the making. Kind of seems to box above his weight. If he had another 5 kilograms on him, yes. Oxen chair, just outstanding in the way he scrums, in the way he carries, but also found out a bit defensively at times.
But Eben was freaking
Eben was
power.
Just colossal. I mean, to have that coming on and just showed the difference in class who was starting and who came off the bench. He gets to 128 test matches. We got a special treat for you guys. The first ever Boks test Centurion, Percy Montgomery. He's got his Al Centurion in the tequila. At least he calls it tequila. And he knows I'm a Jägermeister guy, so I don't go near that stuff. But he's gifted us for the show 2 of his signed Boks Al Centurion, valued, I think, at about 5,000 Rand. You just got to go onto our WhatsApp channel, go to our affiliate link, go onto eBet, put down $100 on something around the Boks against Argentina in Nelspruit, and you stand a chance to win that. And you know what? If you Cape Town as well, we can even get you to do a gym session with Monty. He's in the gym every single day.
Beautiful.
See who benches the most at the moment.
He's looking
good. Don't take him on in a open mile Camps Bay swim, because he will crush you there. So Eben goes. He gets 128 test matches on Saturday. Becomes the most capped Springbok. He starts, and it's just fitting that he should start in a game that they're playing for the Rugby Championship. Only the 5th time in 29 years that South Africa could win that. So get to our affiliate program, because if you had listened to us last week, you would have made some nice dosh, because we said stay away from outright results. Just go for total points. We said plus 56 in Sydney. We said plus 52 in Santiago. And they were, and you would have got 87 cents on your rand.
Damn it!
Hey, not bad, eh?
Yes, very good, mate.
Very good. Thanks to Ebed, Savili Delport, Ryan O'Connor, and now Percy Montgomery. Looking at craziness, the Lions. Please explain to me, because everyone has asked me, What happened in that last minute of the Currie Cup final? Not the last minute, in the last play of the game. They just have to kick it out and they win the Currie Cup.
Mate. Scoreless first half.
It was a thriller.
It was a hard one to watch initially. So the Lions kick the ball out. It's the end of the game. All they have to do is win this line out, get the ball out, put it into touch, and they are Currie Cup champions. And I didn't see who it was, but the Sharks did a masterful job of getting their hands on the Lions bloke who had the ball. So when this ball was formed, they ripped it off him. They got it out. I think it was Brandy David, sent it to the back line, mate. And it was game on. And the Sharks came away with the win.
Yeah, so John Plumtree said he never thought he'd ever hold that Currie Cup again. He did. Let's be honest, it's not the Currie Cup of old. We keep on saying that.
Also, kudos to JP Peterson for what he did with the Sharks to put him in the position to win that thing.
Completely. So the Sharks Challenge Cup winners, Currie Cup winners. Well done to them. That's 2 titles. They now go for the 2 that matter, URC and the Champions Cup. They're going to be judged there. Jordan Hendrickson, 59-meter penalty against his old teammates. Was that a little reminder to Rassie Erasmus? By the way, if you are looking for a goal kicker at 10 who can play 15, I could be your boy still. He started against Wales in the first test match. Was that just a little reminder? Don't chuck this boy away too quickly.
I mean, Jordan Hendrickson, at the time, we said, this is a guy for the future, great prospect. You and I were very surprised that he was sent to go play some sevens rugby in the sort of peak of his breakthrough season. Then got injured, went MIA and seemed to fall off the radar. Big body, big boot, playmaker, rapid, has a pretty good relationship with the guy who's probably going to be the Boks starting number 9 at the next World Cup. Seems to me like a pretty obvious choice to have in and around the mix. And a very high ceiling kind of guy. I'm surprised that he hasn't been around, and great to see him come through with that massive clutch kick against his old team. Hollywood script that, isn't it?
So we talk about who can kick goals at 15 or at 10. Jordan Hendrickson can, we know that. And he's 22, 23 years old. So he's in the mix. He played against Wales earlier in the year, kicked at 75% as well. I think we all got carried away with Sasha's here, and there's no need to have life beyond Sasha. And what that knee injury showed is how quickly it can change, and that you need 3 or 4 guys, because in a 3 to 4 year cycle, you're not going to get through with 1 or 2. There's going to be injuries, there's going to be a loss of form.
Yes,
it is the Currie Cup. It is strength versus strength. It was, like you said, a power Sharks team. A lot of those players will feature in the URC. But you have a particular favourite in the Sharks. He's a centre who they've played on the wing, Ethan Hooker.
Mate.
And he did score a lovely try.
Oof.
But did our mate at 10 not let himself down a bit there on that tackle?
Yeah.
Or was he in a no-hope situation? He was always going to get stepped.
Yeah.
Look, Nahamba.
I think Sonelli thought he would surprise him with like a ray gun impersonation. And he tried to but Ethan wasn't falling for the breakdance, went straight through, scored a try. That's what he does. This guy is just clutch. He comes up in those situations, right place, right time. Certainly has the look of a guy who's probably going to go to the top, and showed his versatility by playing on the wing, and is obviously more suited to centre, but bright future for Ethan Hooker.
And how was that?
Now a Currie Cup champion.
And how was that Ruan Fenter
Jeez,
run? That was just pure bliss, eh?
He just shattered that.
I was surprised that he didn't get given a red card, though.
I don't know if you saw when they crossed to the stands and Willem Albert was actually crying. He was actually crying from
bone
crying.
crusher.
Yeah. No, it was amazing, mate. I mean, that just wrecked him. What a carry.
That was crazy. Now that was a great hit in terms of an attacker on a defender.
Totally.
But if he had just ducked his head down a bit, that guy who was Polak
red card,
would have been
suspension,
red card because of an accidental
the
hit.
safety. I mean, that let's not even talk about Kirtley's yellow card.
All right. We're going to just look at the other game that was played in Sydney, because we love to chat about the All Blacks, especially when we beat them. Australia and New Zealand, 5th successive match that the All Blacks have got into a position of a comfortable lead or being in a game, and they haven't managed to score a point in the last 25 minutes. My theory is that the tempo they play at is so electric in that opening 30, 40 minutes that they are gassed. And they don't have the bench to come on to sustain that.
Well, that's the problem.
When have you seen an All Black team 28-7 up, hanging on in the 79th minute against one of the poorest Wallaby teams we've seen for 2 decades?
Totally, mate. And I think that's part of it kind of shows some insight into their plan, because I think the All Blacks know that bench is low power. And so they're trying to build a lead nice and early, nice and quickly, so that it's almost like if you're doing the 4x100 meters and the last guy in the 4x100 meter leg is a prop. You probably want to be in front by some margin before you give him the baton. So I think that's what's happening at the All Blacks. They're looking for fast starts because they're expecting slow finishes. And, it's not looking pretty.
Again, learned nothing from that game. I knew they could score great tries. Knew that they would kind of fold. And still the same old combinations. So I think he's taken that approach. Let me try and get as many wins as I can for this year, because Sam Cane's not going to be around next year. This refusal to pick Satidi at 8. Persevere with RD at 8.
D-Mac at 10.
The midfield still, the shambles. And
looks like Geordie's banged up now. So.
Yeah, and which may be a good thing for them, because they maybe have to go with a proper midfield combination.
Correct.
And then Will Jordan straight back into 15. And I still just don't get this thing of, people say Mark Tilley is a terrible defender. Whenever I've seen him play Test rugby, he hasn't looked too shabby for me. He's a great attacker. He makes yards.
Player.
But they play in Wellington. It's going to be an interesting one. We'll chat about that later in the week, because it's a place where the All Blacks don't seem to be able to win at the moment.
New Zealand?
New Zealand, yeah. So the big finale, and we'll be doing our preview show on Thursday. We'll obviously preview the Boks against Argentina in Nelspruit. The Boks only need 1 point, 1 league point. That's score 4 tries or lose by within 7. Even if Argentina won with 4, they don't win it. We would win it in terms of a point of having 1 more league point. So, but we want to guard and we want to win, and we want to win it well. But we'll chat in detail about that. Rassie Erasmus announces the team tomorrow. Where do you see the big changes coming in? Do you see all the big guns coming back?
I see the total recall, and I'm guessing they're going to revert to whatever it takes to win. So let's see.
So who do you say? You say France back at tight end?
France back at tight end. Eben back to start. Willie Leroux.
Bongi to start.
Bongi to start. Malcolm off the bench.
Eben to start with Runo Kier, Peter Steff, Jasper Sia. So that's a very different pack. 9, Grant Williams back or Jaden Hendrickson?
Ooh, mate, that's a good call. I don't know. Probably, I would go with Jaden, but he's done stranger things. I don't know if he's going to start with Grant Williams.
Manie Libbok to start, 100 Potter come off the bench.
Mate, jeez. Hopefully not.
Damien Delandy back with Jesse Krill, Cheslin, Kudley, and Willie. Is that what you expect?
That's what I expect.
Very different team, the one that went to Santiago. Now, SA Rugby Magazine does this amazing Monday wrap. It's my favorite piece, where they go and find every Safa that's playing all over the world, and they tell you who did what. In the top 14, Dylan Lates was on fire for La Rochelle, former Stormer. He got 3 tries, all of them from cross kicks. In the English Premiership, Johan van Graan started well with Bath. They beat the defending champion Northampton Saints. And then in the URC, it started last weekend. Great games. Leinster, Boks to win 33-31 against Edinburgh, and then Ulster in the last minute beat the South African coach and South African captain, defending champions, the Warriors. The intensity is going to be there. I think this is going to be the best URC we've seen. We're all in action next week. We'll be previewing that on Thursday as well. But when you looked at the URC games, Zels, you look at what's going on in the Premiership and obviously in the top 14. Once this test season ends now, it's just full on again till November in those test series.
Correct.
It's so lacquer to have so much rugby.
Mate, what a pleasure. And it's a survey of good quality rugby. It's between the top 14, the Prem and the URC, especially the URC where our boys are in action. You get to see the best of the best go at it every single week. And there's just so much that's unpredictable about the URC. You don't really know who's going to emerge here. Are the Stormers going to bounce back to reach the final again? Are the Bulls going to get back there? Are the Sharks going to be resurgent? Are they going to fight their way back into the mix? And the Lions are talking big, and you're pulling for them to do great things. So, I think every weekend's going to be blockbuster stuff.
And the Sharks, for me, the big one. They've won the Currie Cup. They've won the Challenge Cup. They're building good squad depth. This is the first big season that John Plumtree's been back with them. They've got a settled squad. They brought some big name players back into the mix. They have to be top 4, the Galacticos in the URC.
To justify the paychecks.
Well, they have to just justify the talent in that squad.
Totally.
The Lions, as you say, Cash has been speaking a big game.
Love it.
You haven't heard much from the Bulls, so they'll be dangerous.
Yeah.
And the Stormers, I think they've boxed above their weight in the last 2 seasons. If they can get a couple of early wins on tour, it sets them up nicely. But it's going to be thrilling rugger. If you want to know everything about the URC, go to SA Rugby Magazine. Dev Hermanis has put a magnificent piece up there that tells you about every team, who's in, who's out, history, schedules. So get that. And for that wrap as well, my favorite thing, as I said, you want to know who did what in the top 14, in the Premiership, and in the URC. And when the Japanese leagues are on, it's also there. Go to that because it's a wonderful thing to watch. And go and get your SA Rugby Magazine because Eben Etzebeth is on the cover. Aced it. And 127 becomes 128. Boom! This weekend. And he becomes the most capped test bok ever. And on Thursday, we'll tell you why it's going to be a momentous occasion when we preview the Boks to win and win well.